Welcome to this predicted paper from onmaths that is based on the advanced information given to us by the exam boards. Please use this paper in addition to your other revision. You can complete a unique version of this paper by going to our onmaths site. onmaths is full of free content to help you prepare for your exams, such as topic-based papers, demon questions and mini mocks. If you like what we do, please consider subscribing. If we put this in a place value grid, and so we've got thousands, hundreds, tens, and units. We've got 9, 0, 8, 8. So it's 9,000, because it's 9 lots of thousands, and 8 tens, so it would be 80. And we've got 8 units, so 8. Another way of thinking about 19 over 8 is just 19 divided by 8. And to do 19 divided by 8, we put 8 on the outside and we do the bus stop. And we've got 19 there. So 8 doesn't go into 1, so we're just going to move that 1 across. 8 goes into 19 twice, but there are remainders, so we'll need to put some zeros on the end here. And it's remainder 3. 8 goes into 33 times, and there's a remainder of 6. 8 goes into 67 times, and there's a remainder 4. And 8 actually goes exactly into 40, so we didn't need some of those zeros. So the answer will be 2.375. Multiples are times tables, so the multiples of 2 are the times table of 2. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, etc, etc. So the only number in this list that is in the 2 times table is the 6. So we can either use the calculator to work out what 1.2 cubed is, or we can do 1.2 times 1.2 times 1.2. Now if you want to use the calculator to go straight there, you're going to press or type in 1.2. And then normally there's a button that looks like this, X with a little 3, okay, and that will give you the answer. Or if you're not sure how to do that, you can times it by itself 3 times, and you get the answer 1.728. The first thing to do when working out what angle things need to be on a pie chart is to add up the frequencies. So we're going to do 14 plus 7 plus 3, and we find out that that's 24. Then we're going to find the angle that one item would be. So one item is going to be, well, there are 360 degrees in a triangle, and there are 24 items. So we're going to do 360 divided by 24, and that gives us 15 degrees. So each item is worth 15 degrees, or will take up 15 degrees. So to find out the angle for red, well, we've got 14 items, times it by 15, and that will give us 210 degrees. And we're just going to times each of these by 15, which would be 105, and the final one times 15 is 45 degrees. Add them up and they add up to 360, which is good. They need to add up to 360. So we got our protractor, rest it on the pie chart. Now we know 180 is down here, so the first thing we're going to do is just mark that on, because the first angle is going to be 210, so we know that's 180 so far. So I'm going to turn my protractor around, and from 180, 210 will be another 30, so I'm just going to plot that on, and then I'm going to join it up. So start at the center and join that up, and we're going to stop when the circle stops. Then to do 105, we're going to put our protractor in the middle, and we're going to look at 105, which will be up here. And then we're just going to join it up with a straight line. And then we're just going to check the last angle. And so if I put my protractor on it, and it is 45 degrees. Perfect. Now, an important step to not miss is you need to label them. And so the first one is red. The second one is blue. And then the final one is other. I'm going to start just by writing down the number. And we're asked to round this to 3 significant figures. And basically what that means is starting from the left-hand side, it's 3 numbers that we want. So 1, 2, 3. And we're going to do our line after that third number. And you start counting the first non-zero digit. So the first digit there was 2, so we started counting. Now all the numbers to the left, or sorry, to the right, so these numbers here, will all turn to 0. But before that happens, we look at this number. Now this number, if it's 5 or more, it moves this number up by 1. If it's less than 5, that number stays the same. Now it is 5 or more, because it is 5. So it's not going to be 207, it's going to be 208. Now, a common mistake is that students write down 208. No. All the numbers to the right of that line turn to 0. So it would be 0, 0, 0. So it would be 20,000 or 208,000 exactly. To find the fraction of an amount, what we do is we divide by the bottom of the fraction and we times it by the top of the fraction. So the first one we're going to do is 100 divided by that 5, and that would be 20. Then we're going to get that 20 and we're going to times it by the top of the fraction. So 20 times 4 is 80. So our answer will be 80 centimetres. Here we're given a triangle and we're not actually given the values of each of the angles, we're given them in terms of x, but we know that they're going to add up to 180. So we're going to do the 20x plus the 2x plus the 23x, and we know that it's going to equal 180, and the reason is that its angles in a triangle add up to 180. Okay, let's get our tram lines in. Because we've got algebra and we're solving here, we're going to put our tram lines in. Now on the left hand side we need to add these x terms together. So 2x plus 23x will be 25x, plus the 20 will be 45x. And what we're going to do to get x on its own, we're going to divide both sides by 45. So we're going to divide by 45 both sides. And we're going to end up with x equals 4. We've got to first of all work out how many parts there are altogether in our ratio. So we've got 51 saying yes, 7 saying no, and 13 undecided. So altogether, we've got 51 plus 7 plus 13, which is 71 parts. Now each part is equal. So to find out the value of one part, we're going to do how many students there are, which is 2,911, and divide it by the 71 to find out what one part is worth, how many students are in one part. One part's worth 41 students. So each one of those parts in the ratio is 41 students. Now yes, because it goes yes, no, undecided, yes will be the 51 there. So it's 51 lots of 41 students. 51 parts with each part representing 41 students. And when you multiply those together you get 2,091. So our answer is that 2,091 students responded with yes. So we're going to track the amount of eggs to make the amount of, or to make each amount of omelette. So 5 eggs makes 17 omelettes. And we're just going to find out how much is required, how many eggs is required to make one omelette. So we divide that by 17, divide both sides by 17. And so one omelette would be 0.294 blah 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 eggs. Next we want to see how many for 67 omelettes. And to get to 67 from 1 times 67. So do that to the amount of eggs. And we get 19.705 blah blah blah. Now you can't get 0.705 of an egg. We always round with eggs, and we always round upwards, because if you need 19.7, 19 won't be enough, so we need to pick 20 eggs. A sample space diagram is basically a diagram that shows all the outcomes, and we've got the outcomes from spinner 2 at the top, so either 1, 2 or 3, and we've got the outcomes from spinner 1 down the side, so A, B, C, D or E. And we're just writing down all the combinations. So this will be A2, A3, and then this will be B1, C1, D1, E1, and this will be B2, C2, D2, E2, and this will be B3, C3, D3, and E3. And this represents all the possible outcomes you can get from both spinners. Whenever we're putting fractions, decimals and percentages in order, the best way of doing it is converting them all into decimals. So here we've got 0.8, which is already a decimal, so that's just going to be 0.8. Here we've got 9/10, so 9/10 is 0 in the units column and a 9 in the tenths column. 7/25, well, something we can do with that is just times top and bottom by 4, so we get 28/100. So it's going to be 0 in the units column, 2 in the tenths column, and 8 in the hundredths column. Next thing we're going to do is draw a little place value table. And so we've got units here, tenths and hundredths. So we've got 0.9, 0.28 and 0.8. And you can see here that looking at the tenths column, that 2 means that this 0.28 is the smallest. So 0.28 is 7/25, so that's our smallest. And it says it wants it in ascending order, which just basically means from smallest to biggest. Okay, looking at that, so we've dealt with that. The next smallest is that 8, so 0.8. So 0.8 will be our next smallest. And then the largest is that 0.9. Now 0.9 is 9/10. Now always make sure that if it's given in a fraction that you don't write the decimal in the answer. You want to make sure you write what the question had with it. So to draw this graph, what we're going to do is just pick 3 points for our x values. So we're going to start off with x equals -2 and feed that into the equation. So we've got y equals 0.5 times -2, take away 5. So half times 2 is just 1, and a positive times a negative is a negative. So it's going to be -1, take away 5, and -1, take away 5 is going to be -6. And then do our next one, which is x equals 0. And let's just finish that one off actually. We'll put it into the table, so -6, and we'll plot it. So -2 and -6 would be here. Okay, continuing on with x equals 0, so it's going to be y equals 0.5 times 0, which is just going to be 0, take away 5. So it's just 0, take away 5, which is just -5. So 0 minus 5 will be slightly higher, about there. And our last one will be x equals 2. So we've got y equals 1/2 times 2, which will just equal 1, take away 5. So it would be 1, take away 5, which will be -4. So -4. And so that will be here. Now, don't just draw in the line that we've got. You've got to draw in the whole thing. And it will look something like that. So no gaps at all. You've got to do it for the whole graph. So I started at -4 on the left, ended at 4 on the right, and just lined my ruler up with the 3 points we've worked out. The first piece of information I'm going to focus on is the fact Denver gets 8/19. Denver gets 8/19. That means that Engel and Fido together must get 11/19 because they have to add up to 1. So we're only looking at 11/19. I'm going to focus on the ratio next of Engel to Fido. So it's 9/5. And let's have a look and see, well, first of all, how many parts there are all together. So 9 plus 5, which is 14 parts. So there are 14 parts in total, and the share that they get is 11/19. So what I'm going to do is do find out what fraction one of those parts is worth by dividing 11 over 19 by 14. So each part is worth, and I'm just going to keep this into my calculator, 0.041 blah blah blah. And we're asked to find Fido's share. Well, Fido has 5 parts. So Fido has 5 parts, each of them worth 0.041 blah blah blah. I've kept it in my calculator to keep the accuracy, and when I do that I get 0.206 blah blah blah. Now we're asked to work it out as a percent, so I'm just going to times that by 100. So we have 20.676 blah 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 percent, and it wants it rounded to the nearest percent, so that would be 20%. Or actually it would be 21%, because this would round it up, so 21%. In this question we've got euros and we've got pounds, and we're told that £1 is 2.23 euros. And we're trying to get to understand what 2,676 euros is in pounds. And we're going to do that by finding out what 1 euro is, and then finding out how much 2,676 are. So, to get from 2.23 to 1, we divide by 2.23, and we're going to do that on both sides. And when we do that, we get 0.448 blah blah blah. And then to get from 1 to 2,676, we go times by 2,676 on both sides. And when we do that, we get £1,200. So 2,676 euros is £1,200. So we know that the mean is the sum of numbers over the amount. But in this question, we're actually given what the mean is. We're given that that is 29. We're also given the fact that there are 4 cards, so we're given the amount. So what we can do is just get our lines in and solve this. So what we're going to do is just times both sides by 4. So we're going to do 29 times 4, which is 116. And so we know that the sum of the numbers will be 116. So all we need to do is to find the 4th card, is get that 116 and just take away the numbers that we know. And when we do that, we get the answer 26. Now you can easily check this by adding up 37, 26, 27 and 26 again, and then dividing it by 4, and you will get 29. So we're asked to rotate the triangle A 90 degrees clockwise and the centre of rotation at 0, 0. So we're going to first of all just show where the centre of rotation is, which is at our origin. And what you do is you get tracing paper, trace out the triangle, and rest your pen or pencil at 0, 0. So I'm just going to draw it out. So just copy it out. And what you do is you'd push your pen into 0, 0. And unfortunately I can't do that. But when you rotate it 90 degrees clockwise, the shape will end up here. And so we just got to line this up perfectly. A little bit less rotation maybe. There we go. And then what you do is you'd lift your tracing paper and just draw in the shape underneath. And it says to label in the triangle as B. So for this frequency polygon, what we've got to do is work backwards to work out what the table was that created it. So we're going to just draw a starting of a table. And we're going to have our midpoint first. Then our like money spent, our intervals, and then our frequency. So the first midpoint is at 40, and we can see here that that was, just get rid of that, that was between, like that was in this group here. So that is 0, and I'm just going to use M for money, 0 to 80, and the frequency is how high it is, which is 10. The next midpoint is here, so that was going to be 120. And we can see that that's between 80 and 160, and the frequency is 20. And finally the last midpoint is here, which is obviously 200, and that is between 160 and 240, and the height of it is going to be 7. So we're looking for the probability a customer spent less than 160. So that is these two here. Okay, so there are 30 that are less than 160. And how many are there altogether? Well, it's that 10 plus the 20 plus the 7. So it's going to be over 37. So it's 30 over 37. So we're going to start just by writing this out. So m equals 7 brackets x minus 10. And we're going to put our solving lines in. I'm going to start by expanding the brackets. And we don't need to. We could divide both sides by 7, but I think this is a bit easier. And we're going to subtract, or we're going to add 70 to both sides. So we're trying to get x as the subject. So we're trying to get x on its own. And we're next going to divide both sides by 7. So we have m plus 70, all of that over 7 equals x. So x equals m plus 70 over 7. So we're told that from 14 people who liked football, so we've got 14 people here who said yes, they do like football. So we can fill up the 14 here. Now, we're told we started with 31. Therefore, if 14 liked football, then 17 must have not liked it. Carrying on the sentence, it says 4 like rugby. So 4 of those liked rugby. And we had 14 to start off with down this strand. And so that must mean that we've got 10 who don't like rugby. So of those 14, 4 liked rugby. So therefore 10 must have not liked rugby. But what about the bottom section? This part here. We've got 17 who didn't like football. Where it says from the people who did not like football, 6 liked rugby. So we've got 6 there, and that must mean that we've got 11 who did not like rugby. So we're asked to find angle BCE, and that is going to be this one here, because you start at B, go to C, and then go to E, and it's the angle you make. And I might just choose a different colour, because we've already got red on here. So we're looking for this angle here. Now, my advice for these kind of questions is always just try and work your way around the shape with angles you know. So, for instance, I'm going to start with this angle here, and we're going to call this angle ADC. And we know that that must be 79 degrees, and always write down the reason, and we know it is because that is an isosceles triangle. So if you look, we've got an isosceles here, this one, and this one. And the bottom two angles, and I use the word bottom because I always imagine an isosceles as being this way up. The bottom two angles in an isosceles are always equal, so that must be 79. Now we've got 2 of the 3 angles in the triangle, and the last one is going to be angle DCA. And to work out what this angle is, we're going to take it away from 180. So we're going to do 180, take away the 279s we've just worked out. And the reason for that is angles in a triangle equal 180 degrees. Okay, so when we do that, we do 180, take away the 158, and we're left with 22 degrees. So we know that this is going to be 22 degrees. And now we can actually work out angle BCE, because it's going to equal angle DCA. And the reason for that is they are vertically opposite angles. So that's just going to equal 22 degrees. Now, it is really common for these types of questions for you to get maybe 1 or even 2 marks for the answer, but 1 or 2 marks normally for the reasons and for the explanations. In fact, I've seen quite a few exam questions where you get 2 marks for the reasons and only 1 mark for the answer. The first thing we need to do is work out the area of the floor, and you'll notice that this is a trapezium. So with a trapezium, the formula is half A plus B times H, and A and B are the parallel sides, so these ones are the parallel sides, and the height is the one connecting the two bases, the two parallel sides. So we're going to start off by writing down the formula, so it'd be half A plus B H, so half times 2.8 plus 1.2 times 11. And when we do that, we get 22. So the area of the floor is 22 meters squared. And it says here that the tiles are sold in packs which cover 3 meters squared. So if each pack covers 3 meters squared, we're going to do 22 divided by 3, which will be 7.33 packs that we need. Now obviously you can't get 0.3 of a pack or 0.33 of a pack, so we're going to have to get 8 packs and just have some left over. So we'll need 8 packs in total. Okay, next thing we look at is the fact that the Jenny has a 25% discount. So we need to find out what 25% discount would do to the £18.60 for the tiles, or for the pack of tiles. And so what we're going to do is we're going to get the £18.60 and we're going to times it by 0.75. So we're just going to find 3/4 of it because she has a 25% discount, and that would be 1,395. So that's the tiles are going to cost £13.95. Now I've done this in pence and I've kind of muddled it together here, so really let's just go back because I've kind of done this in pence. So that would be 1,860 times 0.75, and so each pack will cost 1,395, and the reason we're doing this in pence is the answer needs to be given in pence, so I might as well just make that conversion now. And so it's going to be 8 lots of the 1,395 pence packs, which will cost in total 11,160 pence, or £111.60. But Jenny has £100 to spend, and we're asked how much extra does she need. So we're going to do the 11,160, take away the 10,000 pence that she has, which will give us 1,160 pence. So she needs to find £11.60 or 1,160 pence from somewhere. So we're going to start by understanding that all lines form or can form an equation y equals mx plus c, with m being the gradient and c being the y-intercept. It says here the gradient is -2, so we've already got a bit of a head start with this, but we don't know what the y-intercept is. So we're going to use this first set of coordinates to work out what the y-intercept is. So y is -31 and x is 15. And we're going to use this to solve and find out what c is. So first thing I'm going to do is, well, just tidy this up. 2 times 15 is 30, so -30 plus c. And I'm just going to add 30 to both sides to get C on its own. So that would be -1 equals C. So C is -1. So we now know that the equation is y equals -2x minus 1. And we're told that the y is -37. And we're looking for the x value, which they've called w. So let's get our solving lines in. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is add 1 to both sides. And so it would be -36 equals -2x. I'm going to now times, or divide everything by -2. And a negative divided by a negative is positive. 36 divided by 2 is 18. And then obviously that gets rid of the coefficient of the x, so it's just x. So x equals 18. So the x value is 18 and the x value is the w value. So w is 18. So this question says that Adrian, Ben and Charlie have some sweets and the ratio of Adrian to Ben to Charlie is 9:6:13. But it also says that Charlie got 56 more sweets than Adrian. So there's 56 more sweets. Well, looking at the actual parts of the ratio, there are 4 more parts. So plus 4 parts, which represent plus 56 sweets. So the 4 extra parts are worth 56 sweets. So 4 parts are worth 56 sweets. So 1 part would be 56 divided by 4, which is 14 sweets. So all we need to do now is work out how many parts there are. Well, there are 9 plus 6 plus 13 parts, which is 28. And each part is worth 14 sweets. So the total number of sweets will be 28 times 14. So 28 times 14 is 392. It's important to remember our speed, distance, time triangle. So we've got speed equals distance over time. And here we are given a distance because from here we're 16 kilometers away from home. So the distance, let's just draw another triangle, the distance will be 16. And we're told that the speed is 32 kilometers per hour. So the speed is 32. So to find the time, we're going to do 16 divided by 32. So the time is a half an hour. And half an hour would bring us, if we start here, half an hour would bring us to 2030 because it's 8 o'clock where we start and we end, therefore, half an hour later. To see if a number's in a sequence, we get the nth term and we get it equal to the number we think is in the sequence. And if the number is in the sequence, then we'll get an integer for n. If the number's not in the sequence, then we'll get a decimal. So we're just solving this now, and we're doing 135 take away 24, which is 111. And then we're going to divide both sides by 10, and you're probably already seeing the fact that it doesn't work exactly because n is 11.1, which means that Prisha is wrong. 135 can't be in that sequence. So in this question we are told that the centre of enlargement is at 6, 4. So let's just put across that. And what I'm going to do is just draw ray lines from the centre of enlargement, and we're just going to go through each of the corners of our shape A. And we're going to just check whether it goes through the corner of shape B, which it does on this one. Let's just keep going. Yeah, it does on this one. But it does not on this one. So it says find the coordinate of the vertex of shape B that is not correct. So the coordinate is this one here, and so that would be -4, 1. There's an awful lot going on in this question. Whenever there's an awful lot going on, it's always best to draw a diagram. So we're going to start off at Chelton, which is a C. Then we go to Bolko, that's where we're going. And we go through Devley on the way. So we'll do D there. Distance from Chelton to Devley is 34 miles. Distance from Devley to Bovlo is 16 miles. So I'm just reading through the question, adding it to my diagram. David leaves Chelton at 9 o'clock. He drives from Chelton to Devley an average speed of 68 miles per hour. And what speed does David travel between Devley and Bolko to arrive at 9:45? So the whole duration of this, the whole thing needs to be 45 minutes or 0.75 hours. And the entire distance is 34 plus 16, so that would be 50 miles. Okay, now having a look at this, we need to find out what time David was at Devley. So we're going to use our speed distance time triangle. So speed equals distance over time, and we're covering up the time because that's the one we want. So it's going to be time equals distance, which is 34, over speed, which is 68. So we're going to do 34 divided by 68, which is 0.5. So it would be 0.5 hours. So that would be half an hour. So we will be at Devley at 9:30. So that means we've got 15 minutes left. Okay, so we've got 15 minutes to travel the 16 miles. So this time we're looking for the speed. Okay, so it would be speed equals the distance, which is 16 miles, over time, which is 15 minutes, but we need that in hours, so that would be 0.25 hours. And so what we can do here is times top 1 by 4 to get rid of the fraction. So it becomes 64 over 1, or just 64 miles per hour. So our answer is 64 miles per hour. So when we're doing column vectors and adding and subtracting them, we just literally add and subtract the top and bottom numbers. So A plus B minus C will be, just looking at the top, 9 plus 18 minus 9, 9 plus 18 minus 9, which will equal 18. And the bottom will be 9 plus minus 18, so really minus 18, and minus 9. And so that will be minus 18. So our column vector will become 18 minus 18. We're going to start off by just writing the decimal in the standard form, which is 4.3. And we're going to look at the power. Now, if the power is positive, it means the standard form number is a really big number. If it's negative, it means it's a very small number. And here it's negative, so we know it's a small number. Now we're going to do the amount of jumps that it shows in the power. So it says a 5 there, so we're going to do 5 jumps. And because it's a small number, we're going to go to the left to make it a small number. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 jumps. So the new decimal point is going to be here. All the jumps that we made, we're going to fill in with zeros. And because it's decimal, we're going to start it off with a 0. So our new number is, or our ordinary number is 0.00043. Now it's important to realise that we shouldn't really think about it as jumping the decimal point. We're actually shifting the number, but it's all relative and it's a lot quicker just to move that decimal point. First thing we've got to understand is what a standard form number is. Standard form number is a number between 1 and 10, but not including 10, times 10 to the power of something else. So we've got to find out what these numbers are. So what I'm going to do is just copy down the number we've got. And there's 4 zeros, so 1, 2, 3, 4. And figure out first of all where the decimal point is. Decimal point's always at the end of the number if it's not shown. So we're just going to put that in for later on. So we've got to find out what our number between 1 and 10, but not including 10, is going to be. So I've got to put the decimal point somewhere in this number to make a number between 1 and 10, ignoring the zeros. So I'm going to put it here, 9.9, and that's going to be our standard form number, 9.9 times 10 to the power of something. Next thing I do is work out what the sign of the power is going to be, and it's dead easy. If it's a negative, it's a really small number, so 0 point something. If it's positive, it's a really big number. Well, we've got a big number here, so it's going to be positive. And the last thing I do is count the jumps between our original decimal point and our new decimal point. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's 5 jumps, so it's going to be to the power of 5. It's sometimes easier in these questions to view these triangles as 2 separate triangles rather than one triangle. So we're kind of just going to split this triangle off and just move it to the side so we can see what's going on. I'm going to do the same with the smaller triangle and kind of move that to the side. So we can see we've got 2 triangles here. We've got a big triangle and small triangle. And we can label the sides of them as 18. Now this long length would be 20 plus x, 20 centimeters plus x. Then we've got 6 here and we've got x here. Now the 2 triangles are similar because the sides here we assume are, well, we know they are parallel because they are right angles, and they share an angle here, which we can just label as A, and so they are definitely similar, which means that one is an enlargement of the other. So we need the scale factor first. Now if you look at the 6 and the 18, they are what we call corresponding sides. So we need to work out the scale factor by finding out what I multiply the 6 by to get to the 18. Well, that's obviously going to be 3. So we now know that we can times the x by 3 to get to the 20 plus x. So we can write that down. 3x, I'm timesing the x by 3, and that will give me 20 plus x. And so I can solve this now. Subtract x both sides. Always subtract the smaller amount, so 2x equals 20. And then divide both sides by 2. And so we've got x equals 10. So we know that x equals 10, it says find the length x, and so that will be 10. So first thing to realise is that the formula for a volume of a cylinder is pi r squared h. So what we need to do first of all is work out the volume of the water butt that James currently has. So we're going to do the volume equals pi times the radius, which is 89 squared, times the height, which is 189. And when we do that, we get 1497069 lots of pi. And I'll keep this in terms of pi just for simplicity. Now, what we want is we want the volume to stay the same. So we're going to keep that as the volume, 1497069 pi. But we want the radius to change. So instead of the radius being 89, we want the radius to be 103. So times 103 squared. And we're trying to work out what the height is. Okay, so first thing we can do actually is just cross off the pi's from both sides. We don't really need them at all. And then we can get our solving things in, our solving lines, and we can divide both sides by the 103 squared. And on the left hand side we get 141.113 blah blah blah, and on the right hand side we get h. So the height will be 141.113. It says it wants it to 2 decimal places, so that will be 141.11. There are 2 outcomes that will end up with the athlete hitting 1 hurdle, and that will be jump hit here and hit jump here. If they jump both hurdles, obviously, or if they hit both hurdles, that's not them hitting 1 hurdle. So to work out the probability of ending up with jump and then hit, what we're going to do is we're just going to multiply those 2 probabilities together. So 4 over 7 times 1 over 10, should be what, 40 over 70. And do the same with hit jump. So hit and jump will be 3 over 7 times 10 over 13. So 3 over 7 times 10 over 13, which will be 30 over 91. Now here's the problem. We've got 2 fractions, we've got 2 probabilities. We've got the probability it will jump and hit, and the probability it will hit and jump, or the athlete will. And we're looking at the probability of this one or this one. And the word or in probability means add. So we're going to do 4 over 70 plus 30 over 91. And using the calculator, that gives us 176 over 455. When we multiply numbers, it doesn't actually matter which order we multiply them. So I can actually rewrite this as 7 times 9 times 10 to the power of 2 times 10 to the power of 9. 7 times 9 is 63. And 10 to the power of 2 times 10 to the power of 9, we add the powers, so it'd be 10 to the power of 11. Now here we've got a problem. It looks like standard form, but it is not standard form. Because standard form has to be a number between 1 and 10, but not including 10. And here we've got 63. So what I'm going to do is just quickly write out what number this is. So we've got the decimal point here. And you don't need to do this, but I find it a bit easier to show what we're doing. So here we've got 10 to the power of 11, so it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We fill these all out with zeros, and that's the number we've created here. A lot of zeros. Now, to make it a number between 1 and 10, not including 10, the decimal point, it needs to be here. So we want that to end up with 6.3 times 10 to the power of, well, let's work that out now. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So it's going to be 10 to the power of 12. Now you don't need to do all the working out I've just shown there. You just need to know when you convert that 63 into a 6.3, you need to add 1 to the power. So we're asked to express TQ in terms of P and Q. Well, we've got another Q here, because all of these are congruent parallelograms. And we have a P there. So if we're starting at T and getting to Q, we can go along this path here and down this path here. So we're going backwards down Q, in fact backwards down 2 lots of Q, and then the correct way down P. So it's either minus 2Q plus P or P minus 2Q. You can complete a unique version of this paper by going to our onmaths site. onmaths is full of free content to help you prepare for your exams, such as topic-based papers, demon questions, and mini mocks. If you like what we do, please consider subscribing.